Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories like these. Now, let's get into today's story video. Ada for refusing to leave my boyfriend's birthday party that I arranged for because his doctor friends wanted to discuss medical stuff. As an example, my female 29, boyfriend's male 34, profession is that of a doctor. The bulk of his friends are from his place of employment, and they all seem to despise me and act distant, maybe because I'm not a medical professional as well. But I honestly don't care since they've been wanting to hang out without me since we started dating, and they've left whatever event I'm currently attending without asking. According to my partner, they're merely growing used to the fact that I'm around. His birthday had passed a few days before, and I'd organized and paid for a party in honor of him. Because the party was being held at the restaurant, and he needed early notice so that he could invite his medical colleagues, it was a big surprise to see him there. As soon as we arrived, his pals started to show up. Even though I was standing right next to him, they walked over to greet him and started shaking his hand and hugging him while completely ignoring me. The tension started when one of them began making disparaging remarks about my appearance. I brushed it off, but another friend began interrogating me about my degree, and then implied that I was an idiot for choosing my lunch. WTF? I remained calm. Then, an hour later, another one asked if I might accompany them, since they wanted to discuss work-related topics that were not public knowledge. I was so taken aback that I giggled when I inquired as to why he considered it was okay to discuss work at a party, and he responded by saying that I had an attitude. The two of them got into a fight, and they demanded that I leave, which I flatly refused to do. I resisted, reminding him and his pals that I'd planned and paid for this party, and that they should go since they were just guests. After the situation worsened, my boyfriend eventually stood up and begged that I preserve the peace and go home. If I didn't go, they would, so he pulled me aside and urged me to return home. I refused to leave since I didn't want to. Everyone left, and the celebration was cut short due to time constraints. From the minute I started arguing with his friends, my boyfriend became furious and began complaining to his friends at home that I had spoiled his birthday. They were being rude to me, but he maintained that I was also wrong since they stated they intended to discuss about medical matters, and that I should have accepted this rather than taking it personal. I felt like I had ruined his birthday by making a show of myself and acting passive-aggressively, as he had recommended. He is no longer speaking to me. I was so stunned that I couldn't fight any longer. He is no longer speaking to me. 8 edit. I declined to attend since I believed that they were using the medical stuff chat as a pretext to get me to depart early from the meeting. Story 2. Ada for asking to take the son I gave up on vacation with me. In any case, I, a 26-year-old girl, was compelled to write this after reading another story that seemed quite similar to my own situation. I had a kid named Alex when I was 19, and he is now 7 years old. I had him when I was 19 years old. When he was a baby, I had no emotional connection with him, and despite the fact that I adored him, my life had been wrecked, and his would be as well. In addition to failing grades and being unable to work, I was unable to pay a babysitter. After I died, Alex was entrusted to my mother and stepfather, who reared him as if he were their own. My mother and stepfather took on the role of grandparents, and despite the fact that I wasn't there for Alex when he was a baby, he recognizes me as his mother, which I am glad for my mother's permission to do. Fortunately, my parents are technologically savvy, so I was able to communicate with him through FaceTime every evening. My grades were good, and I graduated with honors. I have a rewarding work, and I am in a relationship that I hope will lead to marriage in the near future. I am grateful that my boyfriend, Jock30M, recognizes how important Alex is to me in spite of the fact that he does not live with me and is not being raised by me. My parents continue to maintain custody of Alex, but he has started to spend one weekend a month at my place. We do, however, FaceTime every morning after school and at night to keep in touch. Jack surprised me with airline tickets to join into his cabin in Ontario for a week, which I was delighted to accept. Affectionately known as Jock, Alex is a man that Jock wants to get to know better. Jack is impressed by Alex's brilliance and feels he will be able to place him in the local private school where he works as a teacher in the future. In spite of the fact that Alex thinks he's wonderful, I'll accept that he doesn't really know him. I realize I will never be able to make Jack love me, but if he didn't appreciate my child, even if I wasn't the one who raised him, I would never be with him again. However, I do not believe I will be able to be married unless Alex agrees. So I asked Jack if he would be willing to purchase a third ticket, so that Alex could accompany us, and he agreed instantly and without hesitation, despite the fact that it would be an additional expense. Due to the fact that Alex would be out of school for the next 2 weeks, I called my mother and stepfather to see if it would be possible for me to take him on a vacation after Christmas. My mom didn't seem to be overjoyed by the prospect. When I inquired, my stepfather responded furiously that he, my mother, and Alex already had plans for that week and did not want to cancel them, and that he was unhappy and insulted that I inquired without first realizing that they had anything planned. He became angry and offended. He told me to go think out what my priorities were before phoning him back. I did so. In the aftermath of that conversation, I spoke with a friend whom I liked for her candor, and she told me that it was a silly question to ask, since I hadn't paid enough attention to Alex to see that he and my parents may be up to anything. Since then, I've been feeling guilty about it, since I don't want to take my parents for granted anymore. My friend called me in a hole, which was something I told Jacques, and he said I wasn't wrong to ask since I wasn't demanding anything, and that my buddy was wrong to call me in a hole, but I'm not convinced. Update. Hello and welcome to everyone. My fiancé found my account the other day and pushed me to remove it since I had been voted a hole by the public. In lieu of coming to my parents and apologizing in person after posting, my stepfather came over to apologize in person for me. We went to the ice cream shop, which was familiar to me from when I was a child with little ability to communicate. During our talk, I made use of a number of your recommendations. He expressed regret for making this statement regarding my priorities and acknowledged that he had made a mistake. My father expressed his pride at how far I'd gone, said I was the light of his life, and promised that he would always be there for me. It was he who told me that he and his mother were concerned that I would seek to take custody of Alex now that I am finally ready to be a mother, and that if that is what I want, he would support me in my decision. Alex is my first and most important child, and I don't want him to grow up believing that I don't love him. I want Alex to be involved with me and Jacques because he is the most important thing to me, and I don't feel comfortable getting married or having more children unless Alex is okay with it because he is my baby. As soon as Jacques and I returned from our cabin vacation, we agreed to work it out together. When he dropped me off, he gave me a bear hug and a kiss on the cheek as a parting gift. I had seen my stepfather for the final time that day. He died of a massive heart attack while we were at the cabin. That's not something I'm really fond of typing. For the sake of my mother's loneliness and Alex's feeling abandoned, I have returned to live with her and Alex at our home. Since then, I've grown into the role of a parent, preparing all of Alex's meals, dropping him off and picking him up, assisting him with schooling, putting him to sleep, and cuddling with him on a regular basis. Everything that my stepfather has done for me is much appreciated. It's stressful, but it's more rewarding than anything else I could be doing, and all I want to do is see my stepfather again and ask him whether I'm doing a good job at being a mother. Fortunately, my place of employment provides bereavement counseling, and I am permitted to bring Alex along with me. In fact, I feel it has helped him more than me because when my mother put up a photo of when my stepfather first took me fishing, I broke out crying because I miss him so much. But Alex came up to me and embraced me and said, "Mommy, you don't need to cry. I believe this is true." For my mother's sake, I will continue to stand up for her and stay at her side. Likewise, I want to work hard in order to become stronger than I already am, so that I can be the mother Alex deserves. Greetings and thank you for your prior help. I understand that things are a bit bleak right now, but I feel that the future is bright, and my stepfather instilled in me the importance of looking forward. Thanks.